Vryheid can be conceived as a place lost in time. Time is described as an ongoing sequence of events taking place. It covers the past, the present, and into the future. Vryheid, named during the Dutch occupation, means yearning for freedom. On reflection, the name and meaning are very appropriate. The population here was of African slaves and later indentureship of Indians. Going back into the past, and if one were to look into a kaleidoscope and be able to see the future, the current development would have been unbelievable. The old public road was of red brick, laid to a mud path. Prior to this, the mud path saw visitors from Georgetown riding their carriages drawn by horses to Plantation Marie Souvenir to investigate the Demerara Rebellion of 1823. Nearby Felicity and surrounding areas housed the British militia during that time. From the public road to the seawall and from nearby Vryheid Road to Montrose was open land. Two buildings existed, the water pump at Montrose and a family house on a dam lined with coconut and tamarind trees. The Nom de Guerre, or otherwise known as Nora Dam, named after that local resident. That expanse at one time was ever so green with rice crops. Residents of Vryheid and the young Better Hope had fields of paddy which they worked to supplement their meager income. Looking further north, the greenery continued with a thick forest of mangrove as far as the eyes could see. Hidden behind the greenery was the mighty and is the mighty Atlantic. In time, the mangroves disappeared and the relentless sea continued its battering of the coast. At high tide, the sea will wash over the sea wall. For whatever reason, planting of rice ceased and the land remained void of vegetation. It was more of a swamp during the rainy season. During a dark period of Guyana's history, there was separation, whereby the Indian population, suffering social dislocation, set up their new dwellings in North Vryheid. At the same time, education was addressed, and the Montrose Primary School was established. This new area did not boast roads or any other form of infrastructure. The conditions were appalling, to say the least. From the public road to the site of the old railway line also was never developed to admit the mass movement of the population. It was pasture land, and sheep, cows were the occupants of this wide expanse. At one time, the canaries would flock to the rice fields in North Vryheid. When that ceased, the canaries could still be seen landing in central Vryheid, trying to find those grass seeds that were few and far in between. At one time, a trench ran through in the middle of the expanse of this land, dividing it into north and south. It started with the confluence near Vryheid Road, with trenches coming from two directions and joining with the central trench, which runs straight and joining with the 40-foot trench at Montrose. It was filled in when a new trench was dug nearer the railway line. During the filling in of that central trench, a wide area revealed tons of red bricks, believed to have come from the Dutch period. Many at that time, when the discovery was made, thought it was the graves of Dutchmen, and many of our locals who took those bricks home and made footpaths from the gate to the house were scared that the Dutchmen would come walking in during the night. Times change, and just to the south side of where the father yard once existed was a huge clay oven. The locals would fire this up and make red bricks, which was then used to fill in and repair the old Vryheid road, all the way to where the manager's house once existed in South Vryheid. The railway ceased to exist in the 70s, and the road now ran the original track. South Vryheid can be described as anachronistic, that is to say, belonging to another period. It was the original Vryheid. It was the foundation of North and Central. They were not known except for Vryheid, the very old Vryheid. Grab that kaleidoscope and look back into the past, and you will understand why. Dwellings stood on stunted stilts, and many lodges were built on a clay floor. Life, it would appear, faded from reality. Any scion of title was following parents or relatives into the cane fields. Poverty meant working to stay alive. Education didn't seem important for many. The nearby Canadian mission school was a welcome introduction for many, and that school now was rebuilt next to the masjid. 3 religious institutions existed in the old Vryheid: the Presbyterian Church, which is now located next to the public road, the masjid in its original position, and the mandir, which is now in the back street of Better Hope Central. It was stated at one time many Muslims and Hindus were reluctant to send their children to school for fear they would become Christians. There were just a couple of standpipes providing water for cooking and drinking. The artesian well stood tall and silvery next to the masjid. Vryheid South boasted a community center, a dispensary, and in the early 20th century, a cottage hospital. That hospital would have been between the community center and the manager's house. It was near to the Red Road, and some of the foundations were still there to be seen prior to the expansion of that population in the 21st century. The latrines were located at the continuing end of Vryheid Road, about 100 yards from the masjid. It was built on stilts over a trench at the adjoining Better Hope South. The face of Vryheid has changed beyond recognition from the old days. Vryheid was once owned by Lieutenant Van Kooten. He was a Dutch owner of Vryheid. During the trial of Reverend Smith, one of the slaves belonging to Van Kooten was a Negro named Azor. There was another witness who lived at Better Hope. During the planting of sugarcane and the many factories around, Crum Ewing owned such a factory at Montrose, and most likely was located next to Felicity Dam, which in later years became farmlands owned by Peter George and other locals in Better Hope. Crum Ewing apparently was a fair employer. He only employed freed slaves and Indians who had completed their indentureship. A fair wage was paid, and because he was considered a good employer, a cenotaph was laid at the back of the then Christian burial ground and in the grounds of the old Presbyterian church. Next to the pay office was a creche, and nearby, just a stone's throw, was the manager, Mr. Dudd's property. At the side of him were mule pens. These pens housed the mules that worked and pulled the punts along the canals. Next to the mule pens were the Bandu resident. It is sad, though, that the final resting place of so many who lived and worked the estate during colonial days, the dry field, once a burial ground, is now one of those areas occupied as residential.
Africa, 50% India. I have done duty to holiday, emancipation and arrival day. Since Patel Rosak made that journey, 150 years gone already. Whether you're Hindu, Muslim or Christian, let's walk this land hand in hand. We could only prosper if we try. Brotherhood of the boat. Brotherhood of the boat. Kumaye, Zindawe, Kumaye, Zindawe, Kumaye, Zindawe, Kumaye, Zindawe, Kumaye, Zindawe. For those who play in ignorance, talking about true African descendant, if you want to know the truth, take a trip back to your root. And somewhere on that journey, you go see a man in a dhoti, saying he prayers in front of a chandi. Chandi. Then and only then you'll understand what is a cosmopolitan nation. There's no room for prejudice at all. United we stand, divided we fall. So to all races here in Trinbago, Akokaliano Danyaho, let us live as one under the sky. Jahajin high, brotherhood of the boat. Jahajin high, brotherhood of the boat. Jahajin high, Kumaye, Zindawe, Kumaye, Zindawe, Kumaye, Zindawe.
Hi everybody, hope you enjoyed the video. We welcome your feedback in the comment section to help us improve. Please remember to like, subscribe and share.